Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Cover 2 podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lawson Turner, and we got something that I wanted to talk about. It came out a couple of days when Paul George put out his most recent episode of his podcast, P, with Paul George. He really shedded some light into his contract negotiations with the Los Angeles Clippers, and it's great whenever we see these athletes be so open about stuff that's normally handled behind closed doors. So let's get right into it, and then we'll answer this question right here. Will the Clippers regret choosing Kawhi over Paul George? Now, Paul George said the first offer was 2 years for $60 million that the Clippers offered him. And he called it, and I quote, he felt like it was disrespectful. And I would have felt the same way if I was Paul George. Like, me and Kawhi, we've been linked at the hip. And so Paul George asked for what Kawhi got. And Kawhi got a 3 years, $152 million extension from the LA Clippers. So, come this offseason, before Paul George hit the open market, it was 3 years, $150 million is what the Los Angeles Clippers offered him. Paul George liked the deal, but he countered with 3 for 150, the exact same deal, but with a no trade clause. And why is that important? It's important because whenever there's rumblings of, whether it be chemistry not going bad or an injury of Paul George, that's been the story of the Clippers. Him or Kawhi just continue, they cannot stay healthy. Now, from everything that Paul George was told from the Clippers, that they want him to be a Clipper for life, someone who is, when he retires, thought of as a Clipper, but you don't want to give him a no trade clause. Why? I have no idea. If when they brought this team together, it was Kawhi and Paul George. You're pairing two top 20, top 15 players in the NBA, fantastic two-way players. Some would argue Kawhi was the best two-way player at that time. The only issue since then, Kawhi and Paul George, they've been injury prone. Now, to go back before I dive into games played and missed over the course of the Kawhi Paul George era in the with the Clippers, Paul George then said, "Well, since you guys won't give me the no trade clause, it's only right to give him the 4 years, $212 million that he ended up signing with Philly, due to if they wanted to ship him, at least he's not taking less." Now, your annual, you go from $50 million a year to 53, from the 3 for 150 to the 4 for 212, but you're adding the extra year, so it's an extra year of, money and guarantees and stuff like that. But now let's dive into games missed. When you started the first year, everything was going good. They were a fantastic team in the regular season until the league shut down for COVID. And then in the bubble, Kawhi and Paul George played every single game of the postseason. And that's great. It's fantastic. Out of the 72 games that were played, Paul George missed 48. Kawhi played no, Paul George played 48, I'm sorry, and Kawhi played 57 out of those 72 games, which it's great. It's it was going to be one of the most, okay, Kawhi's not playing back to backs. He's coming off, the major injury that ended up having him, miss the last year of his tenure in San Antonio. Now, when everything starts to go downhill. In the bubble, they make the Western Conference semifinals. They blow a 3-1 lead to Denver. We know how the story went. The next year, 72 games, Kawhi plays 52. Paul George plays 54. They go all the way to the Western Conference Finals. Paul George plays all 19 of the postseason games that were played for the Clippers, while Kawhi, once again, I can't blame somebody for injuries. Kawhi tore his ACL, only played the first 11 postseason games, and so that is 8 playoff games that were missed due to him not being able to play. Then, look at the very next year. Paul George suffers a major injury that sidelines him for the majority of the year, only plays 30 of the 82 games, while Kawhi missed all 82 games with said ACL injury, and they missed the playoffs entirely. Year after that, we're now in year 4. Paul George, 56 out of 82. Kawhi, 52 out of 82. So you're missing giant chunks of the season. And Paul George missed all 6 postseason games due to injury. And Kawhi, out of all 6 games that they played against the Suns that year, only played in 2 games, and they got bounced in the first round. And then this past season, it's the exact same thing all over again, except they were a little bit more healthy in the regular season. You know, Kawhi out of the 82 games played 68, which for Kawhi, that's the most he's played since he came to the Clippers. And Paul George played his most games with the Clippers, 74 out of 82, and Paul George played in all 6 postseason games. Kawhi only played in 2. And they once again got bounced in the first round. So if you tally all that up over the entire 390 possible regular season games, Kawhi only played 229 of them. That's 161 games missed. While Paul George, out of the 390, has played in 262 of them. That's only 128 games that were missed. So you're telling me Kawhi has missed 53 more games in just the regular season than Paul George, and you're willing to give Kawhi essentially what he wants, but you're not willing to give Paul George a no trade clause. A no trade clause is the only difference from them running it back with Harden and Russ and Kawhi and Paul George and Zubats and Terrence Mann and just seeing what you have, because it's still a talented roster, but you know, they let him walk and he leaves for nothing. And then let's go to the postseason for missed games. Paul George, out of the 44 potential playoff games that he's played, he has only missed 6 games. And that was 2 years ago, where he missed the whole first round. Then you look at Kawhi. Out of the 44 games that he's missed, 44 games, potential postseason games that were played, he played in only 28 of them. So let me get this straight. Over the past 3 years, one of them he played 0 playoff games. You're telling me out of the 12 in just the previous 2 years where they got bounced in the first round, you've only played 4 postseason games? Now it's injuries, so I can't blame Kawhi or rain on someone's parade when it's injuries. They happen in sports. It sucks. But it confuses me for the Clippers to put their faith in someone that has missed more games. When they're healthy, Kawhi's the better player, obviously. But it's not a Grand Canyon size gap. It's not. It's not like when Kawhi is healthy, he's all the way up here, and Paul George is all the way down here. They're almost damn near level. And the best ability is availability. Can you be on the court? And I think it's a big mistake of essentially choosing the wrong guy, because you look just 2 days ago, might have even been yesterday. I don't remember. Kawhi withdrew from Team USA to focus on his health, which more power to you. I'm not one to say you should play for the Olympics or not, but he probably wasn't going to play anyways. Flatly, he was probably going to be like the 13th, 14th man, because the Team USA is stacked, and they beat Canada last night, which was fantastic to see. It's Even though they got off to a sloppy start, let's not talk Team USA. Let's stay at this. Will the Clippers regret choosing Kawhi over Paul George? I think so. I think it's a big mistake sliding your chips in. So now it's just going to be Kawhi and Harden and Zubats and Westbrook, assuming they don't trade him. I don't know. I think it's a bad decision, and it essentially means that they're not going to bottom out, because with Harden and Kawhi, you're still going to be a competitive team. But do I expect them to try and make any noise to come postseason time? No, I don't. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the Kawhi Paul George era will be known as an error, more than an era. I thought it was cute. Uh, As always, that's all I have for this topic. Before I, ramble and talk more silliness. As always, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Cover Two podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at the Cover Two Pod 26. Link will also be in the description to make it a little bit easier to find. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.